World-renowned pulmonologist Dr. Emmanuel Taban is urging all people who are not vaccinated to do so as a matter of urgency. Dr. Taban, who works at Mediclinic Midstream Hospital, says the number of unvaccinated people in ICU is gradually increasing. This is as the Omicron variant drives COVID-19 infections in the country. Let's speak to Dr. Taban right now about this matter. Thank you very much, Doctor, for speaking to us this Saturday evening. I want to get a sense from you about the picture in the ICU unit where you work at the moment. You're saying that the levels of unvaccinated people is rising. Just tell us how many people roughly are currently in the ICU unit and how this compares to previous waves.
Thank you very much. I think compared to previous wave, obviously the number is quite fewer as compared to second, third and first wave. And what's more important is that I think since the outbreak of the fourth wave, we had total almost 4 ventilated patients, and all of them are unvaccinated. And there was nobody who is vaccinated that was in ICU. In the ward, the number is quite even, 50-50. So it's clear for me is that those with comorbidities such as diabetic, hypertension, cholesterol, dyslipidemia, they actually at high risk of ending up in ICU actually with severe COVID than those who have no comorbidities, or those who are vaccinated. So the trend is showing that obviously that if you have chronic condition, the risk of you ending up in ICU is very high. And currently we have 4, and they're doing quite well, yes.
Can you tell us about those patients who are not necessarily in ICU but who have been admitted for COVID-19? And the reason I ask is that there's a lot of speculation that Omicron is not quite as serious as previous variants based on the fact that there is fewer numbers of hospital admissions, fewer numbers of people who are reliant heavily on oxygen when they are hospitalized. But a lot of experts are telling us that it's still very early to gauge and to say that Omicron is not as serious based on the number of people who are in hospital. Just tell us what's your view on that.
I think, yes, it's definitely too early to decide whether it's mild or not, but the people that we have seen, patients that we've seen in the hospital, most of them were vaccinated, hence they really present with mild conditions, with mostly upper respiratory tract kind of symptoms like cough, sore throats, and tight chest, but they don't have lung involvement. And those who are unvaccinated people, they also are young people with no comorbidities. So most of them really come to hospital because they come with other problems, and they also don't have symptoms. But however, those with underlying chronic problems, those who are definitely, they do come to the hospital and they're quite more sicker compared to others. But there's something also very important that I have observed in the patients that were vaccinated with COVID-19, with the new variant, obviously, that what we saw that most of the inflammatory markers are low to normal. So they don't have high inflammatory markers like high CRP, high D-dimers, and all those markers that were posed in the previous wave. So the question whether it is the effect of the vaccine and the younger population that actually blunting the effect of the coronavirus, we still don't know. But I hope that it's a mild conditions, because as I say, in my ICU, we have 4 who are unvaccinated with diabetic hypertension that needed life support. And fortunately that they managed 2 of them actually out of life support, so which is quite a very positive thing. But I think for me, clearly, I think this trend tells me that the vaccine definitely works. And it's really, I think, that's why I encourage everybody that if you're not vaccinated and if you have underlying chronic conditions, don't think twice. Please get vaccinated as soon as possible, because you never know what might happen tomorrow.
So you're making a very important distinction between the effects of this new variant on those who are vaccinated and those who are unvaccinated. Just to give us an idea, those who have been vaccinated, who are admitted into hospital with COVID-19, whether it's Delta variant or with Omicron or something else with COVID-19, how soon generally are they allowed to leave the hospital?
I think most of them is really 48 to 72 hours. And most of them is just they need assurance, because some of them really come to the hospital because of panic. And some come because of other underlying problems. Some of them are asthmatics, some of them having like chronic conditions like autoimmune disease or diabetic. They tend to have like kind of severe symptoms, but with no lung involvement. After 2 to 3 days, they normally leave the hospital. So they hardly really stay that long, and most of them even don't need oxygen. And that's the beauty about it. And I think for me, that's really good evidence that the vaccine indeed does work.
So despite this evidence that the vaccine does work, there are many people who are still unvaccinated, who are either hesitant or who are entirely against vaccinating against COVID-19. And they obviously have various reasons. What would you say to those people who are completely against vaccinating against COVID-19?
Well, what I want to say that I've quite listened to the social media. Most of the people who refuse vaccine, the reason either because they got some information from social media, some have got it because of religious reason. What I want to assure them that science is a gift from God. And I don't believe that the devil is so smarter that make vaccines. So the vaccines are really an act of science, which is a gift from God. And everybody who is religious enough should actually get vaccinated, and they shouldn't be questioning the benefit of vaccine. And those with comorbidities, some people talk about natural immunity. I mean, you cannot wait for natural immunity to get infected by COVID-19 when you have comorbidity. Chance of you dying are very high. So it doesn't worth it. So if you have chronic condition, please get vaccinated as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Dr. Taban. That was Dr. Emmanuel Taban. He's pulmonologist from the Mediclinic Midstream Hospital.